to another episode of the Hot Topic Podcast with your host, Patrick Quanch.
Jake, what's going on, my friend? It's good to see you.
Hey, good to see you, Patrick.
Yeah, man. I am, you're looking good. You look like you're doing good. And I am really looking forward to this conversation that you and I are about to embark upon. So,
Hey, same. I appreciate you having me on here. This is exciting.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for doing it. You and I have known each other for a little bit, and we've had a couple of conversations along the way. And you're what you do is very intriguing to me, and I just really wanted you to kind of tell those that are listening and those that are watching, really kind of how you got to this spot in your professional career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a journey. I've been in sales for a little over 16 years now, so I spent a lot of my life in the car business, and that's kind of where I grew my sales experience. And what I've learned, though, from going from the auto industry and now I'm in manufacturing, is that sales is very similar no matter what industry you're in, whether you're working with consumers or other businesses. Yeah, so I spent 10 years in the car business, and then I moved into manufacturing as an outside sales rep in 2020, and I worked for two different companies over about 5 years, 5 year span, and just kind of doing B2B sales, helping them find work for their shops and keeping their machines running. That was my job, day in, day out. Hey, we got lasers that need work. Let's go find work for the lasers. Okay, let's go find the companies that have the work that we can help produce for them. And then in August of 2024, I had a bit of a shock where I was let go from my position, and I just kind of sat there for a second on a Friday afternoon. I took my kids camping for the weekend. I said, I'm not canceling this camping trip, and I'm going to figure out what's next for me when I get back on Monday. And long story short, I didn't figure it out in one day. It took me took me about 8 weeks to really get to a point where I was like, okay, my next move needs to be something on my own. I need to be able to do something for myself. And it was through a friend and my wife that we kind of had some conversation about, you've been doing sales for two different companies now, over the last 5 years or 4 years. And why can't you just do the same thing but do it on your own, and maybe do it more fractional is what we're calling it now these days, and in the new era here. So why not be a fractional sales rep? Whereas, I work part-time for multiple different companies, and I serve their needs as a salesperson or an outside salesperson. Because it's, at the end of the day, it's expensive to hire on a sales guy, and we come with experience, and I would say we're not cheap to hire, but we also have to show up and prove ourselves too. So there's a lot that goes into hiring that. So this kind of gives companies the ability to not have to bring somebody on full time. But so yeah, that's what I do. I work for multiple different companies in the manufacturing space. Anything from fabrication shops to machine shops. I partnered with powder coaters in the past, and we're just kind of growing at a steady pace right now of just increasing, that world. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's exciting because, like you said, to your credit, it's very expensive to hire a seasoned sales representative. A lot of companies don't want to do it, even though they probably realize the importance of having a strong sales team. They also look at what a good salesperson could cost them monetarily.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can offer them those same benefits, but not directly, I could see where, a company would, or an organization would really look at that and entertain that. That that doesn't really translate over into the car and truck business because there's a lot of envy and a lot of jealousy, and a lot of um, distrust. As you can imagine. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you've been in the business. Yeah. It's if I go represent 4 or 5 dealership groups, I mean it's not going to fly because they can't control it, right? So they
sure.
When you work at a car or truck dealership, they want you there. That way they can kind of control the narrative, and I don't blame them. I mean, really, that's what they're looking for. But It sounds like maybe on the manufacturing side, that's not quite the case, is what
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I would say the nice thing is like, you know, working for multiple different companies. It's, you know, they don't. When I started for one company, I went in there and it was, you know, day one, you're drinking from the fire hydrant or whatever they call it these days, where it's just like you get all this information, you get all these customers, and they're like, go find me work. Well, that work doesn't just come in the door that day. Like, you don't bring your bag of companies with you and just drop it on their lap. So it takes time to build that. So hiring on a full-time guy that's gonna, you know, bring all that to you, it's gonna take 6 months. So at least in my role, it's like I kind of bring a different presence into your company where I'm like, I start a little, you know, let's just look at your customer base you have now and maybe look at your processes and your leads coming in, and let's just kind of turn that narrative around pretty quickly, instead of me just going in, sitting at one company, learning their industry, and then kind of slowly growing it from there. So I kind of am able to take a little bit different approach with this and kind of grow it a little faster with each company as I go into. But it has its challenges too, where, you know, I got to learn everybody's ways on how they do things, and everybody's got different companies and different capabilities and whatnot. But yeah, it's been a learning experience for sure.
Yeah. What and I like how you, instead of going out there and trying to get new customers, you're really looking at their customer base, saying, "Hey, let's start here. Let's try to figure out
Mm-hmm.
if we, you know, if we can pull from this bucket, if you will." What do you think is the number one or the most often um, hurdle that you find when you reach out to a current customer base? Is it lack of communication? Is it, you know, they've lost a relationship along the way? What do you think the number one thing is the reason why they've kind of slowed the business with that one particular customer?
Yeah, I honestly think it just comes down to they just kind of forgot about that company. Like, if you, the one thing I've been doing with a couple of the companies is when I go in there, it's like, hey, give me your customers back to even 2020. Let's go look at the last 5 years, and then let's look at the sales history and say, okay, did those companies, you know, you were making money in 2020, 2021, then they left in 2022. What happened? Did anybody remember that? Does anybody know what happened? So it's, you know, I think it's just a lack of knowing, you know, hey, we lost this company, because you get so inundated with quotes coming in and projects going out that the last thing you're thinking about is, oh my, you know, what happened to that company from 3 years ago? And then one day maybe you're, you know, at home sitting on the couch and you're like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. But, you know, it's definitely, I think, the lack of communication of just or like looking at it, you know, going back on that stuff, and where are you keeping that information? You know, do a lot of these shops don't have CRM systems and any type of process to really keep a good track on that type of stuff. Now they track everything else, but I think they struggle to kind of track some of that important data.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always, you know, I always like to coin the phrase, I'll circle back to that. And I'll circle back to that sometimes just gets put on the back burner or forgotten, you know, because to your point, I think we all have great intentions when it comes to customer relationships and staying in front of our customers and things like that. But without true processes and really an effort to be spent to it, it's, hey, you know, whatever happened to, you know, Chuck? Man,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard from him in a while. And you look up and you show up to Chuck's place and, you know, you bring a box of donuts in and Chuck's got a new guy. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, you know, then what happened? And then, and like to your point, you go back and you start talking about, hey, where did we go south with Chuck? And your perception may not be the reality. It's like, oh, well, he just went away. Well, no, you know, if you ask Chuck, he's like, well, you know, the last time I tried to work with them, I asked him 3 different times for multiple quotes. I never heard back from him. So I just didn't feel like I was important enough for them. So I moved on. And that's the sad reality of, you know, our customers is, man, if you'll just pay a little attention and circle back to them a little more often, maybe
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of iron those things out, because your good customers, I feel, are always going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Man, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I got busy. Okay, it's not a problem, Jake. Hey, man, could you? Yeah, I'm on it. You know, I'll get that to you here in the next few days or whatever. Or let's have another conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I on another podcast, I kind of referenced a piggy bank. So when you first get a customer, you're going to hand them a piggy bank and you're going to tell them, hey, for every good thing that I do for you, would you drop a note in here? And then whenever I screw up, will you remember that I've got a bunch of good things in this piggy bank?
Yeah.
And it's okay. You can take a couple out, throw them away, and I'll re-earn those good deeds. But always remember that I'm hoping to do a lot more good stuff than mess ups. And when you kind of put that in perspective, eventually that piggy bank runs empty.
Mm-hmm.
Like you haven't put enough effort, and that's our efforts with our customers. When you're not circling back, doing the simple things of just having a conversation, or maybe it's lunch, or maybe it's a box of donuts, just to let his staff know that you care enough about their business. When that piggy bank runs empty, somebody else is going to fill it up,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Absolutely.
happens a lot.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Give me an idea. When you're working with a client, what's their customer base look like? Because obviously in the car and truck business, our customer bases are huge. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
could be, you know, thousands, certainly tens of thousands. What does it look like in the manufacturing world?
Yeah, so I'd say every manufacturer that I've kind of been around has their list of, 50 to maybe 100 companies that are, that's their core. And, that kind of fluctuates throughout the year. But then you have, you kind of get to that line of like, okay, anything below this line, it's like, we do work for them, but it's not much. So, I really try and narrow it down specifically as to that, I try not to go too broad, like maybe 100 is too broad. So let's focus on your top 50, or let's focus on a price point. Like, if you're making, okay, $100,000 with this customer in a year, and everybody else, above that, let's focus on them and really try and hone in on that specifically. And then we can kind of look at some of the other stuff too. And maybe there's some growth opportunities outside of that there too. But like you said, to your point too, like there's so many little things that you can do to kind of just keep those relationships going. Like there's like we get to the end of the year, and I did this right when I started in 2024. We got to the end of the year. I was starting with a new company, and I was just kind of introducing myself to the customer base. But I'm like, hey, what's a happy holidays email? Let's just send a happy holiday. Like it's something so simple that you can basically automate, but it just is a reminder of like, hey, we're here. This is who we are. Just wanted to say hi, happy, Merry Christmas, happy holidays. And then, just kind of those little touch points throughout the year are just kind of so easy to just kind of add
Mm.
into your repertoire of what you're doing. So yeah, there's a lot of little things that do go a long way, because you can't make it out to every customer. And half the time you can't even get in the front door anymore. So you got to just try and do what you can to stay in front of people.
Yeah, I interviewed a gentleman that's in sales. He's in truck sales, Eric Dobby, and he had told me, he goes, and he's really big into sending out greeting cards
Mm-hmm.
for all kinds of occasions, and he locked in with this one company that does these really, and he sent me several. And what it does when he sends a card, I have a tendency to kind of set it off to the side. It's not something that I'm gonna just toss. It's like, oh wow, Eric thought enough about me. He told me that over the last, I think he said the last 7 years, he sent out over 23,000 greeting cards to his customer base. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think I mean, I haven't sent out 1/100th of that in my lifetime,
Yeah. Yep.
much less in the last 7 years. Right. But
Yeah.
that's how he connects with his customer base. And even if they're not a customer, they're just people that he randomly will encounter. He does this for him. And I thought, wow, that's such a gesture
Yeah.
that, and then I get a card, and then I don't do anything with it because I'm really bad about that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
just
Yep.
am.
Yep.
And then I feel bad after about a month of looking at this card. It's like, oh man, I need to pick up the phone, or I need to, send him an email, or just do something, reciprocal, that honestly, I don't, I don't do a very good job of it. I need to get better at that.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe I need to put that on my list of things in 2026 to get better at.
Oh, we used to write thank you cards in the car business after every customer that we talked to. It was write a thank you card and mail it out. For us, it was like, this is so stupid. Why are we doing this? And then that customer would call you back and be like, I got your card. That was so nice of you. And you're like, oh, that's why we do this. Like it does. Why. It's not easy to stay consistent with that type of stuff, but it does go a long way for sure.
Yeah. It's tough because we're always, I feel like most of what we do in sales is acquisition. We're trying to get the next customer, and we're trying to, when we stop and look, it's like, hey man, look backwards just for a second. Look at all those customers that you've already acquired. They just need a little massaging, and maybe you can pull something from there. And it's tough. It really is, because, it subconsciously, I think, when we acquire a customer, we feel like, okay, well, my job is done. I've acquired the customer. They've spent some money with me. Mm-hmm. And then we think, okay, well, the next time they need something, they're going to reach out to me. Well, that's probably true in most cases, but I'd be willing to bet that in most cases, we think that's really what happens, but the customer really expects us to get back with them. Mm-hmm. That's really what they're looking for. And if we don't do a very good job of that, then we're constantly trying to acquire new customers, and that's where we spend all of our efforts.
Yeah.
So,
And the amount
it's a juggle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the amount of touches that it takes to acquire a new customer. Like it's not like 2 emails and you landed a new customer. Like I think back a couple of years ago, we looked at it. It was like 12 touches or whatever, you had to have like all these different, phone calls, emails, visits, and until you can really hopefully acquire a new customer. So if you're not focusing on the companies that you already have that relationship and building that, then you're missing a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, I agree. Give me an idea of what are you said manufacturing, and I'm assuming you're in the steel business. Give me some ideas. What are they manufacturing?
Yeah, it's anything from medical devices to military to, honestly, I work with companies in the truck body world. So that's, I think, kind of how we got connected is a former colleague of mine that, ended up going to a truck body company, and he was connected with you. I'm like, well, this is a world that I'm already dabbling in. The big hot topic right now in the industry I'm in is the data center world for everything AI related. There is so much work out there. Now, if you can find it, there's work out there to be had in the data center world, just with everything from the heating and cooling to the infrastructure to the just anything and everything that you can think of. But what I focus on with all my companies is anything metal, plastic, anything related to that, of whether you're laser cutting it, whether it's a tube that you're tube cutting, to welding, to machining, to really anything in that world is kind of what I dabble in. You guys are maybe selling the truck bodies, but I'm working with the companies that are making the truck bodies and making all the components and whatnot, or however we're involved there. So.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're probably talking to manufacturers. Is it globally? Is it internationally? Where's the majority of your customers based?
Yeah, a lot of the companies I work with directly are here in the U.S., but there has been times in the last almost 2 years that I've dabbled in some companies over in Germany and Czech Republic and whatnot. So it does have a little bit of a further reach as well. There's a lot of companies from Europe that are looking to bring products here to the U.S. as well, just with tariffs and everything going on. That a lot of things that were sourced over there, and now we're trying to bring some of that back here as well. And there was a big initiative that for like the Made in the USA type of stuff as well, in the manufacturing industry as well. So, there's a good amount of push there, but a lot of the companies that I represent are based here in the U.S. currently.
Gotcha. Yeah. Do a lot of travel?
I actually don't. So I did a lot of travel, and when I was in outside sales, I was that was a lot of my job was to be on the road and visiting customers and doing that. And I did that, and I learned a lot through that you're, unless you schedule a meeting, and even if you do schedule a meeting, you're not guaranteed that they're even going to be there when you do schedule that meeting. I've been able to kind of take a back seat to travel with what I do now, and really just focus on, showing up every day and doing what I do, whether that's sending emails, scheduling meetings. With everything digital that we have now with Teams calls, Google Meets, like it's so much easier to get somebody on the phone virtually than it is to set up a meeting in person. But I will say that if, there is extreme value to a to an in-person meeting. It doesn't necessarily need to happen right away, but if you can get to a point where you can meet somebody face to face and take them to lunch and tour their facility, like there is so much value to getting to that next step, because you're really, really building on that relationship then.
Yeah, for sure. I cut my teeth really in sales and outside sales. I was selling medium and heavy duty trucks. At that time, this was, 2000, 2001. A lot of those customers were still very inclined for you to show up to their office and knock on the door. And, it was a lot easier. And I want to tell you what changed it was 9/11.
Mm.
When that happened, it seemed like it shifted everything to where more companies became more difficult to get into.
Mm-hmm.
As you can imagine, it was something that you and I certainly, and people that were around back then, we had never been attacked on our own soil, so we didn't really know how to face that, other than it's just really easy to make it difficult to get to a decision maker now.
Mm.
So probably 15 years ago or so, I struggled with trying to knock on doors and get to see people. It's not easy. It's difficult. I kind of flipped the narrative. Because when you and I walk in and they can sense that we're salespeople, immediately the bulldog at the front desk, whoever that might be, their job is to make us go away. Go
Mm-hmm.
away. We don't need anything that you have to offer. I could be giving away free $100 bills and they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want any part of it, right?
Yep.
Because they're just taught, hey, just get all that stuff out of here, because I, the decision maker, don't have time to talk to everybody that comes in that door.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never get anything done. Okay. So what I did, I flipped that narrative. So when I was selling trucks, I would go in and I would quickly point out, hey, I notice you guys have some older trucks. I'm actually a truck buyer. Would you be interested in knowing the value of those trucks, and maybe I can buy some from you? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what that did, that confused the bulldog, because the bulldog doesn't see me as a salesperson now.
Right.
I'm there to help. And they would tell me, hey, I tell you what, walk down the hallway there and go ask for Chuck. He's the third office on the left. He's the guy that you need to talk to.
Yeah.
Well, I would go back there and introduce myself, and immediately he's thinking I'm a salesperson. And I would explain to him that I'm really just there to see if he has some trucks that he wants to get rid of. And almost 90% of the time, even if they didn't want to get rid of it, they wanted to know the value of what they have.
Yeah.
So I said, look, it's no obligation. I'll put a value on it. Whether you want to move on it or not, it's up to you. But at the very least, you kind of know what you have out there. And they would always let me, oh yeah, for sure. Because there was no fear of them having to make a decision. So they were like, sure, go out there, and they should be open. If not, get with the guy back there in the back. He can get you the key. So I'd go out there and I'd start writing down VIN numbers and, doing my thing, doing an assessment. VIN numbers, mileage, the drill.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at this stuff, and curiosity always kills the cat, because then Chuck comes out to find out what I'm doing. Right. So as I'm doing my assessments and I'm looking around, he'll ask, hey man, so, how's business? What do you do? Whatever, chit chat. And invariably they'll ask, hey, I'm thinking about trading these in on whatever. Do you happen to know a sales guy? And that's when I would pull out my business card and hand him my business card. And they were like, wow, okay. And then they would want to know. Yeah, exactly. They would want to know, what made you flip that narrative? I said, well, honestly, Chuck, I got tired of being shut out, because
Mm-hmm.
Sally Sue up front is inclined to tell me to go away, that you don't want to talk to me. But if I flipped the narrative, I confused her. She pointed me right to you. And now we're out here talking about you buying new trucks from me. And it worked beautifully whenever I was able to get to that person. It didn't work all the time, but it certainly,
Sure.
it was just flipping that narrative. And that's
Absolutely.
sometimes we as salespeople, we don't we get so entrenched in our sandbox that we don't really try to think outside of it.
Mhm.
But for me, it was necessity. I was like, I'm tired of being told no. How do I change that? And for me, it worked. And I've tried to tell, other people along the way, and I've yet to have anybody really try it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, look, just try it. Just trust me on this and see if it works. But you know that that's my motive, is to help a bunch of salespeople maybe change the narrative out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to walk into anywhere, and even whether you have that pitch or whether you have, whatever it is, it's hard to walk in cold. I did door-to-door sales for solar for a short stint of my life, where you're knocking on consumer doors, and the amount of people that just yell at you and tell you no, and then to translate that into a business, and half the time you walk into an empty lobby with a bell, and maybe you could talk to somebody, maybe you can't, but it's sometimes you drive 3 hours for a 10-minute face-to-face interaction. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I like that idea though, of flipping that script. And like you said, it doesn't work for everybody, but you got to find what works for you. And you can't, if the same old thing is not working, you got to find a way to flip that script and try something new. So
yeah. Like I said, it's a balance, right? So it's just, every day we get up and it's just balance. It's a balancing act of trying to get in there. Talk to me about the companies you're dealing with now, obviously with tariffs and everything. And I saw that Trump, just got another tariff reform. I guess he got shut down this morning. So it's made the market react to it. What are some of the struggles that your companies are dealing with today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the fluctuation in metal. It really is really kind of affecting the market. Projects that we quoted months ago that were good at that time, and now we're looking to requote, or new projects that are coming in. You're like, oh, we should be able to make this for that target price, and then it can't be done. So, like I said, there's a lot of work out there to be had, but it's just a matter of knowing where to find it. But then you got a lot of people that are competing for the same type of work and competing for the same type of parts. And I think if you're looking now to buy material and pick up new material, it's prices are jumping up so high. So the companies that maybe have that material in stock already, that have the ability to stock that type of stuff, that changes the game too. So yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, it's just like anybody. It affects all that stuff in the world affects kind of everybody's business in different ways. But I would say our biggest thing right now is just the cost of material, whether it's aluminum or steel or whatever you're looking to get. But yeah, it's yeah.
That's quotes that we used to get on service bodies and such. They're still pretty consistent, but generally you could go months with the same quote. That number was going to be good. And ever since all the tariffs, it's like, hey man, that number may not be good here in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
The bigger companies can kind of hold that, obviously, because they have better buying power. But the smaller companies, for example, if they don't, you're going to get a gooseneck flatbed installed on something. If they don't have a large stock of those beds and they're having to buy them more frequently, that price fluctuates a lot. And it's not a huge number, obviously. It could be a few $100s. It's tough for a salesperson to be able to, you sell a truck to a customer, and then 2 months later they want another truck, and you're like, oh hey, by the way, that that truck's going to be another $1,000. And they're like, well, I just bought one. It's like, well, yeah, I get it, but
yeah,
that gooseneck flatbed cost me $1,000 more today than it did 2 months ago. And I think that's affected the truck world as well, is because there's a lot of people that are just, they've been sitting on the sidelines for a number of months or years, and now they're getting sticker shock, right? Because they look up and that truck that may have cost them, let's say $75,000 3 years ago, now it's closer to $100,000, and they don't really know how to absorb that other than give it time.
Yeah.
Well, the more time you give it, that price isn't coming back.
No.
Right.
Nope.
The customers, the fleet directors and people like that can just move on from that are going to be better off rather than the guy that just decides he's going to wait another year. Now we've gone from 75 to 100 to now 110.
Mm-hmm.
It's just getting further and further out around for them. So I think that's what we're facing right now. Interest rates still are, they're getting better. They're still not where I think a lot of business consumers would like to see it, but it is what it is. We can't certainly affect that. But the manufacturers, the OEMs, I guess, are doing a pretty good job of now bringing back some of those lower interest rates, and 0% financing has kind of started coming back around. So hopefully it kind of spurs the economy a little bit going into Q2 to where, maybe we can kind of get trucks rolling again. Cause it's been a couple of years since it's really been, hearty, if you will. It's been sporadic, but, hopefully in the next couple of years, it'll pick up.
Yeah. Yeah. I just recently bought a truck, and, it's been 5 years since I've been in the car business. And, I remember when like a small pickup truck, you could pick up a new one for 35,000. And now you look at a new small pickup truck and they're 50,000 to start. And it's like, in 5 years, that has changed. And then if you look at a full size, you're 55 and up. It's just, it's just insane how it changes. But yeah, you go to the grocery store, and I got 4 kids. So I go to the grocery store, whereas a couple years ago it was, I could get by with $150 for the week. Not even close now.
Nope.
But now you add Costco and everything onto that as well, and you definitely are not hitting $150, but
no,
it's a wild time.
Yeah. It seems like that stabilized a little bit. I mean, it doesn't feel like we're, like you said, to your point there, for a while, it seemed like every time you went, it's like, oh my God, man, I bought the same stuff and it's 10, 15, 20% more. And it's when you start getting to that 40 to 50% more, then you start to feel it. But it seems like things have kind of equalized, I guess, or maybe we've just grown accustomed to it. It's
probably
just the new.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Probably a lot of that. Yeah.
$100 is just, it used to be $20. Now it's $100 for everything. It's, you sneeze at the grocery store and you spend $100. It doesn't matter if you needed a gallon of milk and eggs, it's still $100 somehow.
I'm telling you, this was, I'm going to date myself here, but one of my first jobs, I was in high school. Grocery stores used to have sack boys. So I was a sack boy. That was my first job. And I'll never forget, I was, this is probably 1986. So probably 40 years ago, I guess. A lady came into the grocery store and she had 2 buggy full of groceries, right? And she spent $100, and the whole store, everybody that worked there, we were all in a buzz about that. Like nobody had ever spent that kind of money before. Yeah. Typically you can go with a buggy full of groceries, $25 to $40, right? It was, the average. This lady spent $100, and we were just beside ourselves. Like, I cannot believe that lady just spent this kind of money. Who does that? Who spends $100? But like you said today, 4 or 5 bags, it's $100.